Nurture and support begins in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Nurture and Support. This is episode 15. I am Mel at Karmic9, and with me again is Kelly.
Hi, everybody. Kelly Toole at KELLYTHUL on Twitter. And oh crap, Mel, we're doing an episode without a guest, which means more work for us.
That's true. We liked having those guests on because we didn't have to do anything but sit back and enjoy it.
That's right. Be entertained and let them do the labor.
Because we do so much work.
Yeah. You have no idea of the hours of preparation.
Yes. So everybody can reach us on the web at nurtureandsupport.net, at nertandsup@gmail.com, and on Twitter at nertandsup. Just as a reminder, because at the end of this show, we have some listener recommendations to throw out for all of you. And I guess we might as well go ahead and get started this episode. I have probably said something about this TV show before, and I know if you follow me at all on Twitter, you know how much I love Farscape.
Oh,
Yay!
I thought you were going to do that Teen Wolf thing.
That's next show, buddy.
Oh, crap. No.
Yes.
I'm sure it'll be a wonderful recommendation. Excuse me.
I am going to make him watch Teen Wolf. Anyway, you'll be happy to know there are really not very many shirtless scenes in Farscape. So, Farscape was a show that aired on the Sci-Fi Channel back in those days. It wasn't the sci-fi of today that's SYFY. It was SCIFI.
Yeah,
There was quite a little.
When they made that, do you recall all the whining when they made that switch on Twitter?
That's what I was getting ready to say.
Oh, sorry.
There was quite a kerfluffle when they changed to SyFy, as some of the people like to call it. But I have nothing against sci-fi, though I will admit, Farscape was probably, I had a hard time forgiving Sci-Fi for canceling Farscape. I really did. I really had a hard time with it. But we're here to celebrate the awesomeness that was Rockne S. Obannon's wonderful Farscape. It aired from 1999 to 2003. It got 4 seasons on air and was abruptly canceled because of apparently it was quite expensive to make. And they finally, after the fans screamed and cried and whined and threw themselves in the street in front of the sci-fi officials, they got a movie made. That was the Peacekeeper Wars. So it's the story of a human astronaut named John Crichton, who's played by Ben Browder, who some of you who might not be quite as old as I am might remember from Stargate. He was in the last couple of seasons of Stargate. And Claudia Black played Aaron Sun, a kick-ass, humanoid-looking peacekeeper alien. They were, like it sounds, the peacekeepers of the universe. They were a very militaristic society. They dressed in a lot of black and were very regimental. And they marched around the universe, kind of like the Empire, and kicked everyone's ass and kept them in line. So John gets sucked through a wormhole and ends up in the middle of this big space battle where these prisoners have hijacked their prison ship and are escaping. Now, Kelly, did you ever watch Farscape?
I have not.
Oh my gosh. We have to fix that.
That's repairable, because that's on Netflix, I believe.
It is on not only Netflix, but it is also on Amazon Prime for all of you Prime members out there. So you can watch it on either one with no extra fees.
Watch it with your golden iPads and as your you Amazon Prime elitists.
Yes. And it's out in several different editions of individual episodes and complete sets. So if you have a used bookstore that carries that kind of stuff, you can probably pick them up really cheap. But the Blu-ray of the complete set is not that expensive. I don't have a price for you right off the top of my head, but for the awesomeness that's Farscape, it's not that bad. So like I was saying, John gets sucked through a wormhole when he is up in the space shuttle, because there was a space shuttle back then, and I'm not bitter that there's not one now, but that's okay. And he ends up
You got Richard Branson's giving you can kind of ride on a shuttle-esque thing with his little Virgin
I know.
whatever dealy.
But it's not a real shuttle, but
True.
oh well. He gets sucked through a wormhole into the middle of this big battle. Now this prison ship that the prisoners have hijacked is called Moya, Moya. And the cool thing about Moya is that she is a living ship. She is basically a mixture of organics and metals. And she has no weaponry. She is a sentient ship, but she can't speak to anyone. So she has a pilot, which is another alien race that basically is this huge giant thing, and they don't really move around on land very well. And so they basically enter into a symbiotic relationship with leviathans, which is what these type of ships are called. And that's how they go out and see the stars. But it's not like they can ever leave the ship. They actually never leave the little room where they are because they actually grow into part of the ship. So he doesn't have a name. His name is Pilot. And he is the one who talks to them for Moya. He's not necessarily in charge. He and Moya are partners. Now, some other cool aspect of this show is that Pilot and one of the other characters, Rigel, who is this tiny little frog prince type guy who has a levitating chair, he was an emperor before he was turned into a prisoner. And all of these characters are Muppets. The Henson Company was partners on this show. They got together with Rockne S. Obannon, that it was his idea, basically his concept, and he got together with Jim Henson Productions and Hallmark Entertainment, and they made this show in Australia. Most of the actors are Australian except for Ben Browder, and the Henson Company made all of these creatures, which is sort of timely because here in, I think, about 2 weeks from when we're recording this, which I think is probably the week this will go up, SyFy has a new show out called, what is it, Jim Henson's Creature Shop?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for that show because I love that kind of stuff. And it's a good time to go check out Farscape and see just what a cool job way back in 1999 that they were doing with some of these, because they are as much a character in this show as anything else. And
so the Muppets, there's several families of Muppets. There's the Kermit Miss Piggy Muppets, and then a little to the left of them there are the Fraggle Rock Muppets.
Right.
And then there are kind of the Dark Crystal Muppet or creatures.
Right.
So I'm going to assume these are harken closer to Dark Crystal-esque.
They do, though they're even more refined than Dark Crystal was. But, they don't look, Dark Crystal had a particular look to it. Farscape doesn't have that sort of, Skeksis type look going on there. But Pilot is this huge animatronic puppet that they built. Rigel is too, and they are particularly Rigel, they're in every episode of the series practically. Pilot is not maybe necessarily actually full-on body view in every episode, but Rigel is almost. And it's just really cool. And they're not the only ones that show up. Others show up in different episodes. And it's just really cool. I love all that kind of stuff. But it's funny how when you watch the show, you lose the sense that that's not really an actor playing that part, is how well they do it, how well the expressions are on their faces, even though it's all animatronic. It's just really cool. It's one of the cool aspects of it, and as old as the show is.
This makes no sense for me to have missed. This has like every aspect of stuff that sounds really cool to me, so I have no idea why I never... A lot of
people did miss it back in the day. We didn't have the internet quite as well developed as it is today to find some of these things out. But it's a really cool story. It's got a bit of a romance element to it as it goes on, because John and Aaron, it's will they, won't they for a while. But it pretty much covers every science fiction trope you can come up with. And it's a story because he didn't do anything wrong, and this peacekeeper captain, when he crashes into this battle, he accidentally hits one of their fighter pilots who happens to be the captain's brother, and the captain is after him for all of season 1. But there's a deeper story going on about wormhole technology, and it gets into, the power of just because you have the ability to create some huge thing, should you? Because it ends up turning into a battle for who would control wormhole technology. But essentially, it's a ship full of a bunch of friends and the differences they have because they're all aliens. And they all look down on John because he is this pathetic little human. And here, we are thinking we're the pinnacle of everything in the universe. And it's just funny when John goes to this ship and even the little frog-looking guy in his little levitating chair can see better than he can, and they can hear better than he can. It's just funny. And John throws out all sorts of pop culture references that if you're old like me, you'll just crack up at because they were so back then, so timely. Like things like Buffy, all sorts of references to things like that are all back in this show. The young people nowadays may not remember some of these things. It pains me sometimes to think I know people that were only born in the 90s, and so they were just little children when this show aired, and they never saw it. So, but it's well worth the watch.
Not going to comment on that.
Yeah.
You worry about the 90s.
I'll worry about the 90s.
I can swing a decade or two back on you there.
Hey, I'm well past the 90s, but it's well worth going back and watching. I've been going back through on Netflix and watching the first season, and it just reminds me of just how much I loved this show when it came on. And like so many of these shows, it really is the first one I remember that came on a Friday night and became like the whole, we don't have a life, we're nerds, we sit at home and watch TV on Friday nights instead of going out and doing anything. Because even way back then, it was like, I'm sorry, Farscape is on, and I don't care what we're doing, but I have to go home to a television to watch Farscape, because this was in the day when we didn't have DVRs. You had a VCR, and that was it. And if the VCR didn't record, you were screwed. So it was best to get home and watch it before you didn't get to see it again. So it's a really good show with a lot of very realistic looking aliens. They visit all sorts of different worlds. It's a very emotional story as well. There's a nice little love story that goes on in the midst of everybody getting their ass kicked and half of the universe trying to kill John because he's a, pesky little human who gets in the middle of everything. But it's good. It's good. I'd highly recommend it to anyone. I would have to say everyone knows how much I love Firefly, but Farscape was my first big nerd love, I'd have to say.
And it ran multiple seasons too, right? So
it did. It was supposed to run for 5 seasons, and they out of the blue canceled it right after the 4th season. But SyFy did the same thing to Farscape that Fox did to Firefly, with airing episodes kind of out of order, airing a couple, and then going months before they aired anymore. You never quite knew when it was going to come on, things like that. But a couple of years ago when they did that Sci-Fi Channel anniversary show, they talked about that, and it was the first successful scripted show that Sci-Fi had ever done. They had always been showing old stuff. And so Farscape was like was an experiment kind of for them. They had a couple of failures, but Farscape was the first successful scripted show that they had. And they always said it just ended up being too expensive to make, what with the filming in Australia, all of the special effects that they had to do, and I'm sure the puppetry and all of that cost quite a bit to make all of them. You could kind of tell in the later seasons where they were trying to pare some things back, and that's only really if you're looking for it. It didn't really affect the story itself. So I was really excited when Rockne Obannon, the creator of Farscape, was involved in Under the Dome. I was really excited. Oh, this is going to be good. I love him. And I was really disappointed. But that's a show for an unrecommendation show. That's one of my unrecommendations. Okay, here's a quick editing note. If you know what I said wrong in that last section, then you get a gold star. For those of you who don't know, I will fess up that I knew this was wrong as it was coming out of my mouth, but I can't ever miss an opportunity to bash Under the Dome, so it spilled out anyway. Rockne Obannon didn't have anything to do with Under the Dome. That was Brian K. Vaughan, so mea culpa, I am wrong. Stay tuned later for Kelly's own confession about his own wrongness.
We can maybe in the blog post throw in a kind of a gentle side non-recommendation Under the Dome. And
Mel's bitter corner.
Yeah, I'm with you on, and I tried to hang. Hank's on Under the Dome. It had to be good, but I just get so mad now because I actually watched Ozymandias again last night, just because it's one of the last episodes of Breaking Bad, which Vince Gilligan he considers the best episode they ever did.
It was.
And there's, Hank is a lot cooler in Breaking Bad than he is in Under the Dome. I mean, the actor's a good actor, but it shows you what good writing does for you, I guess. But
yeah, I think we're gonna have to probably dedicate a whole show to Breaking Bad.
I think so. I think we could. Yeah. I think that's an excellent idea. But I'll take that as a cue to stop my Breaking Bad talk for this episode and actually move on to my first recommendation. So something else we could probably dedicate a show to is A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Because whether it's the book, the movie, the TV shows, the radio dramas, there's just tons of good things, all coming initially from just some of the most hilarious, the funniest book I've ever read, funniest series of books I've ever read were The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And after I had read it the first time, and I was really encouraging a bunch of my friends to read it, I'd say, look, read the first 2 pages. After you read the first 2 pages, you're going to know if you're going to absolutely love this book or whether it's not your thing, but you're going to probably love it. And so it's a wonderful game. Douglas Adams, that clever British humor and just quote after quote after quote that are great concepts that are wonderful in there. I do love, his Zaphod Beeblebrox, the rogue president of the universe, 2-headed rogue president of the universe, played by Sam Rockwell pretty awesomely in the movie. He's pretty full of himself, and I just love the section where they put him in a box to punish him. They said, this is going to destroy him because what it does is it puts you in context to the rest of the universe. So it's like you are here, and it shows the planet and the social, and the whole idea is to really have you understand how deeply insignificant you are when you take the whole thing in. And it's, I guess, been a very effective way to punish and injure other people before. And old SyFy gets in there and comes out, and he's feeling pretty good about himself. His ego is so big. Yeah, pretty important guy. And so there's just all kinds of stuff there. But what was one of the really cool aspects of Hitchhiker's Guide was a text-based game that came out shortly after, I think it was published for a while. He's probably into his second or third book when the text thing showed up. And I'm not 100% sure of the timing, but, just to give you a sense of the video gaming capabilities at that time, these text-based games were about it. I think this is the time when Pong and some of these other things were also starting to emerge. So you had like a cursor-based game, in which, of course, Pong folks probably are vaguely familiar with some. But just another sidetrack on that. The other one, the most awesome cursor-based game, are you familiar with the gaming system called Odyssey?
I don't think so.
So this is a special kind of bad. I mean, and this was the premier, most expensive gaming system. The regular folks could buy Pong. The rich folks, who we knew and we borrowed their Odyssey, they would buy Odyssey. But all Odyssey basically consisted of was a console you'd plug into your TV that would drop a white cursor on your screen that you can move around with the joystick. But it also included cellophane overlays that would be held onto the front of your screen by the static electricity of your screen, so that you would do this overlay of a haunted house or a maze or a tennis court, and that was the graphical field upon which your little cursor is. And then the programming was, okay, if you got and you had to kind of make sure the cellophane was lined up right, otherwise you're like, why can't I go through the door? Oh, you got to move it up an inch or down an inch. So. So that's what we had to work with, which wasn't a lot. So these text-based games were pretty fun, and the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy game was awesome. Very, very hard. You die a lot, but it's really funny every time you do die. So it's kind of worth it from there. And so there are out there. The reason I'm bringing this up as a recommendation is it's the 30th anniversary, or the 30th anniversary edition of the game has just been released by the BBC. There's also a 20th anniversary edition. If you kind of dig back through the archives of their site, there's actually 2 of those as well. So there's multiple different versions of this game, but this new one's out, 30th anniversary. They've kept true to kind of the basic nature of the game, which is this text-based type of thing, but then they've thrown some little bit of imagery off to the right-hand side so you can kind of see the room you're in. You can't walk through it or anything like that, but it gives you some visual clues to say, oh, I need to try and pick up toothbrush or grab screwdriver or whatever the pieces are. So, Mel, have you played any of these text-based games before?
I've played some of them before. I have to say I haven't played the Hitchhiker's one in a really, really, really long time. So I saw you tweet about this the other day, so I've got to check it out. I just haven't done it yet.
It's great, and then in typical Hitchhiker's fashion, so the interface. So you basically get a keyboard. It's an image that comes up. It's an interactive keyboard. You can use your mouse to type in your things, which is an amazing simulation for the way I actually type. Is the one digit moving across the keyboard, so it doesn't slow me down. For you people who know how to type, you might get a little irked. I'm pretty sure the keyboard will work for you too, as well, if you don't want to punch in there. But just to give you a little bit of idea of the dynamic of it, it opens up in the bedroom as the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy does, and so it gives you a description, and it gives you a little bit of detail, because it was a text-based game, and you didn't have a little image on the side that this new edition does. It says, there's a flathead screwdriver in here outside the bed, and there's a toothbrush here outside the bed. So you might type in something like, put on dressing gown, which I'm assuming is British talk for robe, we'll say. Yes. You're not holding your gown is its response. So then you type in, pick up dressing gown, and it says, you can't reach it from the bed. The effort almost kills you. And it just kind of continues on in there. And so then you type scream. You begin to get a sore throat. So it's pretty impressive recognition of what's typed in there in responses, and you get the same type of humorous responses back, and the same types of things. And you will die often. So another really nice feature of this, which I don't believe was in the text game, I can't remember the original, is the save function, which is really key, so that you kind of repeatedly save, so that when you make the next mistake and die, you don't have to start all over again. And it's a fun thing. It's a big time waster. There were a number of these out. I was a little challenged because I have a technique in playing games that really carried forward from these into the first-person shooters and all that, which my basic theory is find a weapon, use the weapon. Use the weapon immediately, use the weapon often. So it's like, you have a gun, shoot, just bang. And that's not always a tactic that works well, I found, but that's been kind of my model. Doesn't work too well here, but I do remember early on, for those of you familiar with the story, there's a creature called, and it stays really true to the book, with just a couple of little, so if you're familiar with the book, it'll help you get through this, because you kind of know what you need to do next somewhat. Mm-hmm. You got to crack the code exactly what to do. But in the book, I think Ford Perfect basically just sticks the Babelfish in Arthur's ear. And the Babelfish is, of course, the fish that proved the non-existence of God, because only a superior being could create a fish that could translate any language it heard into the language whose a person's head had been put into. So therefore, a superior being's not going to prove he exists, so therefore there can be no God kind of theory is the whole Babelfish deal. But the Babelfish, Ford just throws it in his ear in the book. In this one, you've got to kind of catch it. It's in the room. and there's all sorts of problems. You think you've got it, and it flies across the room and goes in a hole, and you've got to plug the hole and do all these different things. And took me about 2 weeks to get the Babelfish operating. And this is also before you could Google, how do I get the frickin' Babelfish, and get the answer immediately. So back in the tough times, I mean, it's uphill both ways to the game. So, but it's fun. If you've read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's going to bring back memories. If you haven't, you should read it first before you play it. You'll enjoy it a lot more. But it is a fun game. I expect you could bluff your way through without it, but it's a much better experience having read the book.
Yeah. Do you get as far as meeting God in the game as you do in the books?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
I moved on because I was playing. I was playing it. I believe my college work-study job was to work the computer center, which meant babysitting people that didn't know how to turn on Apple IIe's, and so I'd walk over. I can't turn it on. Here, it's turned on for you, and playing this game. While tending to the students, of course, but that gives you kind of a feel for the vintage of this. But the BBC, so you will have to actually set up a BBC account, which I don't know if they have any issues with Americans and whether they'll allow us to have an account. I assume they will. I'll figure they've gotten over the whole colony thing by now. But get the account. Play that. Go check out the other stuff. I think when we include the blog post, we'll not only include a link to the actual game on the BBC site, but there's a nice article on it that covers a lot of it. We'll maybe include that too. It gives you a little more backstory. So that would be my first recommendation, is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy 30th Anniversary Edition game.
And since we're on the subject of Douglas Adams, we can throw out that y'all might want to find your towels, because Towel Day is May 25th. Don't panic. Always have your towel.
There you go.
So, if you don't know what that means, do a quick little search on Towel Day, and it will tell you everything you need to know. So I guess that leads me into my second recommendation, which is a music recommendation this time. Are y'all shocked? I have no books today. My second recommendation is an album called Broken Bride by a band called Ludo. This came out back in 2005, only I was only recently made aware of it because I'm not hip and all. But it is a rock opera, so this is shocking for me. It's only got, let me see, 1, 2, 3. It's got 5 songs on it, and it only takes about half an hour to listen to the whole thing. And I absolutely love this album. Ludo is I guess you'd call them alt-rock. They kind of came out with a lot of some of those punk emo type bands, but I would classify them more as alt-rock. Their lyrics to all of their songs, not just on this album, but a lot of their other ones, they're very funny. They're very, very nerd friendly. They're funny. They're sarcastic. You can see some really, truly hilarious videos on YouTube from some of their other albums. Unfortunately, there's only one video made for this album, and it's for the second song on the album called Save Our City. But the story this album's trying to tell you is about a man whose wife dies, and he spends 15 years making a time machine to go back in time and save her. When he finally gets the machine to work, it ends up messing up, and he goes back to the very beginning of time. And one of the lyrics is basically he's gone back to pterodactyls swarming. He says, "I crashed before the birth of Christ, pterodactyls swarming." And it's cute. These songs are catchy. They're fast and they're pretty catchy. But he crashes his time machine back in the pterodactyls and has to hide out in a cave because he can't get back to his time machine. And all he wants to do is go back, or now he has to go forward in time, to get to his wife to save her from dying. And at this point, you don't really know how she died. So you go into the second song, which he's not really in it. It's starting to tell you the story of the apocalypse, which sounds a lot like basically like the rapture, like an antichrist has come to Earth named King Simius, which I thought was really kind of funny. But there's zombies, dragons, all sorts of horrible things going on. And this is the last little city of humanity. And what happens? Our intrepid time traveler gets to his ship, and he tries to go back to 1989, which is the year that his wife died. And he screws up again, and he goes too far forward in time and ends up at the apocalypse. And so kind of he's put in the position there of deciding whether he's going to continue trying to get back to his wife or if he's going to do what he can to save what remains of humanity in this big apocalyptic event. And
this
this
all
is
happens in a half hour?
Yes.
It's a lot of story advancement in a half hour.
It's time travel, man. It's timey-wimey. So he gets to basically the apocalypse and has to make a decision. And this is kind of where fans get a little wonky on what exactly happens, whether he does it on purpose or whether it's an accident, and your interpretation of the lyrics can differ. But essentially what happens is his time machine blows up, and it very much appears as if basically he kills what's left of humanity, destroying the zombies and everything. But this is a good thing because it saves the souls of humans, because if they died, they would rise as zombies and serve King Simius, and that would be bad. So the angels grant him his wish to go back to see his wife. And that's the very last song, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody. What happens in the very last song, you'll need to listen to it. It's only 30 minutes long. All of these songs are up in some version or another on YouTube.
So is it, when you say it's so rock operas, there's lots of different, it's so first of all, The Who did the first ever rock opera called A Quick One While He's Away. That was even before Tommy. It was a one song little mini. It's kind of like the prototype that Pete Townsend did before he did Tommy. Alice, of course, is all about the rock storytelling concept album. Concept album versus rock opera different. But there can be rock operas that are like Tommy, which are rock music that are a storyline, and there can be more rock operas where you sound like Queen. So what is there? Where do they kind of, how would you, is it?
This, I would say, even though it's very short, to me it's more like Tommy. It's telling a complete story. Not just like one of those theme albums that come out a lot. In fact, I have another recommendation for a different time that's more of a theme album, not really telling a story. But this tells a complete story. You do have to be, it helps if you have the lyrics in front of you, which if you buy the physical CD, you'll have the lyrics on the liner notes, which I always like to have. But it's rock. All of the songs, except for the very last song, are pretty fast, pretty moving. In fact, some of them get a little jangly for me because I'm not a huge fan of the metal type. But anyway,
But you will be before this podcast is over, as I continue to barrage you with.
I'm learning. I like Captain Beefheart. I still have not. I will say I still haven't gone through all of Alice's back catalog.
You have to all. We'll target you in on a couple key moments.
Yes, I did enjoy Captain Beefheart though. So, Broken Bride is lyrically, it's just it's awesome. I just love it. Even if you just go through and you read all of the lyrics without ever hearing the music, you'll get the story. I just love it. In fact, one of the ones, maybe it's because it has zombies and dragons, because I love zombies and I love dragons, even though in this they're bad. But that's okay. I can deal with bad ones. But in the second song, Save Our City, which is probably, I think, the most popular song on the album, I don't know if it ever got radio play. I was not really listening much to the radio back in 2005. I'd given up and resorted to my iPod. But there's a lyric in there that I particularly always liked, and it's, there's a time to pray and there's a time to fight. Anything can be a weapon if you're holding it right. And I always like that because, it's a zombie apocalypse. You need a weapon. So that's the gist of it. You've got a man who loses his wife. He loves his wife so much he spends 15 years building a time machine to go back in time to save her. And things go wrong because he goes back to the dinosaurs, and then he goes too far forward to the zombie apocalypse. And is he ever going to get back to his wife? And what's going to happen when he does? And you'll find that out in the very last song if you go listen to it. And I will just warn you that I wasn't really prepared for what was going to happen. And I was listening to this on my way to work, and I am not one of those sentimental, really girly girls. And by the time I got to work, I was like bawling. So
Oh, wow.
you might not want to drive if you're a sensitive sort when you listen to the last song. So anyway, just a warning. Ludo, The Broken Bride. You can find Ludo at ludorock.com. They have 3 or 4 albums, I think, all of which I know are available on Amazon and iTunes, or you can buy them directly from their website. But they've got this album in particular. I think every song is up on YouTube. Maybe not by them, but it's been uploaded by someone. So go take a listen to it. It is also on Spotify. So if you're a Spotify user, you can go listen to it, check it out there. But I highly recommend it. One of my favorite albums. So
Very cool.
check them out.
Excellent. All righty. So the last one that I'm going to recommend for today, before we get into our reader recommendations, is a fun little thing that some MIT Media Lab students have put together. It's called GIF. Now I guess we'll get into the big debate: is it GIF or GIF? I call it GIF. I don't know.
I do too, and I don't care who says it's a J. It's not a J. That's a G. I don't care how they say it. It's a GIF.
Yeah, me too.
I stand by that.
So GIF is this. It's a really interesting thing. What they basically do is that they're kind of, it's a bit of the premise of has another form of communication evolved the animated GIF, that doesn't, that can, that slight series of a few moving pictures can convey different emotions, or if you're making a point, you can actually use an animated GIF as a response. You see some folks do that on a lot of these message boards and types of things where someone will just basically drop in a certain kind of animated GIF that basically serves as same answers. I think this is bullcrap. There's an animated GIF, or I think what you're saying is really kind of arrogant. There's something for that as well. And so there's just all kinds of tons of animated GIFs that are out there that people do that with. And what this does is it basically brings you into an environment where it throws you two GIFs. It might be Jon Stewart with his fingers to his temple going, mind control, and then an eagle looking surprised. And it'll say, which of these two conveys anger to you or excitement? And you pick. And as you pick through, you eventually, it's gamified, so we've learned it is a good thing to do. You can level up depending on how many you vote for and all those types of things. But you're basically helping them catalog all these animated GIFs in terms of what animated GIF really does everyone agree best express anger or surprise or those types of things.
That's cool.
And then as you go through it, it's built to be, it's heavily socially aware in terms of social sharing. If you come across, there'll be many familiar animated GIFs you'll see as you go through this. There'll be a lot of new ones. If you find one you particularly like, you can just right from there share it to Facebook, Twitter, or whatever. Just kind of pop it out real quick there. So you're getting exposed to all of these as you go through them. You can shoot them out real quick. You can continue to kind of rank them, and then it has this fascinating search feature, which will work on 3, 4, or 5 dimensions. And you basically, so like on the 4 dimensions, it starts off with a default of amusement, disgust, contempt, and anger. And you can kind of pull points towards each of these to create a polygon to say, I'm looking for something that's high in amusement, low in contempt, a lot of disgust, and middle anger. And it creates a polygon, and I'm looking for those a lot. and so you create this polygon, and then that polygon, you click on the polygon, and it then serves up based on the categorization that folks have done. Mm-hmm. Which animated GIFs might best fit in this category. And not only do you get those 4, but you can basically, there's pull downs for all of those initial nodes. So if you don't want amusement, disgust, contempt, and anger, and you'd rather have contentment, embarrassment, excitement, fear, guilt, happiness, pleasure, pride, relief, sadness, satisfaction, shame, surprise, etc., you can do all sorts of different things. So it's a wonderful time waster in terms of that. I have found myself going high on anger and amusement on many of my polygons. It seems to be a niche for me. Not exactly sure why yet, but it's a fun thing to kind of play with. But it's just them working data, getting people to input, creating some abilities for you to share. So it's a really fun thing. And then the results you can bring up the current results, and for any of the categories that I've covered, you can bring up the animated GIFs. So, for instance, for happiness, currently, the #1 animated GIF is this very cute child with her head, kind of falling over to the side, and she's just laughing her head off, and it's just cute. Followed immediately by Captain Picard, in some scene where he made a goofy little silly face, and there's Peter Pan and SpongeBob being happy, and Amy Poulter and Ariel, but you see, according to their rankings, what are the top 15 happies, or disgusts, or amused, or anger, so you got some time to waste. It's a great way to do it. Kind of interesting, since we're talking. Let's see who #1 on shame is. Right? I can't. Looks like shame is some sort of anime one. I'm not quite as familiar with it. Well, we got Tom. Oh, it's a sports one. Never mind. There's some sports ones in shame too, Mel. I won't blah blah sports, but it's Tom Brady for those of you who watch sports, and you can see why. So, but yeah, it's a fun little thing. I just kind of came across it recently, and once you go down this rabbit hole, you're going to be on the site for a while, because one, you'll find a lot of very handy animated GIFs if you want to use them, and two, it's just kind of fun to see what's out there. So I would recommend GIF, which its actual address, and we'll put this in the blog post because it's long-ish, but it's gifgif.media.mit.edu, but we'll put the link in for you as well. So
yeah,
it's a fun one.
So all of you will know why I have a upsurge in my animated GIF postings.
Yeah, you can just dive anytime. However you're feeling, Mel, I guarantee you can go to this site and you can find the perfect animated GIF for you.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it sounds kind of like I have a music app that you called Mood Agent that you get to. It goes through your library and picks songs out by you move these sliders on this graph as to your mood, whether you're angry or whatever. So it sounds like it's got an algorithm like that, and that's how it picks your GIFs it's going to give you. So that's cool, because I really enjoy that on that music app. If I'm angry, it'll give me a bunch of angry music to listen to.
There you go.
So. All right, so I think it is time. Are we going to do listener recommendations or go into Twitter recommendations?
Let's do our listener recommendations real quick, and then do the Twitter ones.
Okay.
That works for you?
That works for me. So we have listener recommendations from, let's see, I wrote it down, @TeresaHazel411 on Twitter. She has sent us a recommendation because we have both talked about the Fitbit and Zombies Run and things like that. She sent us a recommendation for an app called Every Move, and I haven't played around with it very much, but I did install it. And it does sync up to several different other fitness-related apps out there, like Fitbit and Zombies Run are two of them. There are a multitude of more. But you get points for your activity level, and those points can earn you rewards. So going along with my last recommendation of the AeroPress, I was tickled to see that one of the rewards on there was a coffee subscription with an AeroPress. So you pick a reward, you go through and earn your points by doing active type things, which is sometimes hard. And when you get points racked up, then you get to claim your reward. So check it out. It's called Every Move. It's available on iOS and Android. And I've enjoyed it so far. I'm still trying to get some coffee, but that means I need to get off my butt and move around so that I can order my subscription coffee from it. So
sweet. That sounds
check
fun.
it out.
Definitely. Yeah. That'd be good. I'd definitely get that one down. I want to thank. We have actually. So when the show started off, and each episode, Mel and I encourage you to share your information with us on Twitter or the blog post or all that. And we kind of forgot to get back to the old Gmail account because it's a depressing place because we get all these comments that are spam comments. We have to. It's a place that notifies us that that's going on, but we also, amongst the spam are these treasures, which are the some of you folks are sending us in recommendations, and we are about the business of working through those and getting them on our shows, and we'll be doing that over the next several. Teresa actually sent in several, and we're going to actually do 2 of hers today. We've got a good friend Helena who also has some recommendations, Helena McGevna, and we're going to make sure that we get hers in as well too, and more as well. So please send them any way you like. We're now much better about checking our Gmail account, and they won't sit there quite as long. So
since we know we're not talking to ourselves,
that's
there
right.
are a few
Mel and I
people
can.
listening.
Yeah. Apparently, it was a slow week for knitting podcasts. So, so the second one that Teresa provided is Zombie Honeymoon. I have yet to view it, but on her recommendation, I'll give her a shot. What she's pointing out is that this is not a zombie apocalypse movie, but there's only 2 zombies in it, and the title kind of gives it away in terms of their relationship. And Teresa says she loves the movie. It's funny and sweet without being sappy. So that works for me. If it's that combination, that sounds good. I'll take a little funny and sweet and not sappy.
Funny and
for
sweet
sure.
zombies.
There you go. She didn't think it was really a horror movie, but she says it does have some gross out moments, which also speaks to me. So
Yes, we're all about the gross out moments around here.
So that's our two reader recommendations for today. More to come. Please keep sending them in. Like I said, we're much better on staying on top of this stuff now. And thank you very much, Teresa, for sending these in.
Yep. And
with that, we'll move on into Twitter recommendations.
Mine for this week is Stephen Blackmore. His Twitter handle is @sblackmore. That's BLACKMOORE. He is an author who's written several books, but he is hilarious on Twitter. One of the particular things I like to follow him for is that a couple of times a week at least, he makes up his own horoscopes. And just an example of some of the ones that he does is, let's see, Leo. Today you will see attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion and watch sea beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. And let me see. There was another one I saw that was funny.
That could be true for anyone, though.
It could. It could. But here's a good one for a Libra. Today you will cease to exist for 0.000435 seconds. So just cute little things like that. Some days they're pretty dark and grim and fit my moods most of the time because I'm a Capricorn. Let me see what he says today. Capricorn, you will commit a major faux pas at the Bacchanalia tonight when you accidentally refer to it as a Saturnalia instead. It would be great if I knew what any of those sort of meant.
Just the second one's wrong. But that's about it.
Yeah, I don't know what the second one means. I know what the first one means. So, yeah. You won't catch me in any of those, I suspect. So that's all I have today. At Stephen Blackmore, he's funny on a day-to-day basis. I particularly love his little Twitter horoscopes that he comes up with, though. So check those out. I think you'll enjoy them.
Very cool, Mel. And that sounds like a familiar recommendation to me. And the reason it does, just to go behind the scenes with you a little bit, is one member of this podcast doesn't have a particularly good memory and managed to recommend the same Twitter ID 2 shows in a row, and that would be me. And so we're taking opportunity to redo our Twitter recommendations. So I liked Mel's recommendation the first time, and I like it this time as well. And now let me give you an entirely new Twitter recommendation from me, other than a repeat, and that is @Dale Horvath _TWD. So this is a parody account of good old Dale from The Walking Dead. It's got just under 6,000 followers on it. Who's ever running it's doing a pretty good job. They're pretty funny. And so they're plenty active during actual Walking Dead airings, but this gentleman or lady stays really busy off hours too, sometimes offering kind of Dale pearls of wisdom, but just overall being pretty funny. And so there's just tons of Walking Dead parody Twitter accounts out there. This is one of the better ones, in my opinion. So that's at Dale Horvath, HORVATH_TWD. So that would be my unique and new and different Twitter recommendation for this week.
Oh, it's not like I don't screw up. I think that's one for you, and I've had a couple. So anyway, we don't cast stones here, and we've warned all of you that we're sometimes not terribly prepared.
Or competent, in my case here, but oh well.
It's the internet. Preparation and competence are not required.
Well, folks, I think that wraps it up for another episode of Nurture and Support. Please email us, which we will read, promise, and email us at nerdandsup@gmail.com.
Yes.
Nerdandsup. Same for Twitter, nerdandsup. Tweet us there. Tweet Mel and I at our Twitter accounts. We definitely read those on a regular basis. Leave a mention in the on the blog posts. It was another place for it to great. Would love to hear from you. If you go to iTunes and want to rate us, we'd be very appreciative. And we made it through a show without a guest. How about that? Good deal.
We
can
talk to each other occasionally, you know.
Yes, we can. Okay. Absolutely.
It's okay. So thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode, and we'll be back next week. With or without a guest, we'll be back. So there you go.
Nurturing and supporting Rockne.